Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb on YouTube for April of 2014. Um, April looks like it's going to be pretty interesting, well, really only for one event. But we got some planets out there. Otherwise, it's a pretty normal month, except for the total lunar eclipse that is going to happen on the night of the 14th and into the morning of the 15th. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I'm going to go in the normal order and talk about the planets that you can see, and then the events, including the lunar eclipse, and then talk about the constellations. And I'm going to try to cram this in about 10 to 15 minutes. So here we go. First of all, planets you can see around sunset. I have this set for April 16th, daylight savings time, and right around sunset. In fact, let's go a little bit later so it's dark, like 8:30. What you can see up here is Jupiter up in the southwest, and it's pretty high up there. In fact, let's see, I think we can find out. Yep, it's about 57 degrees high, so that it's almost straight, 2/3 of the way to being straight up. And what's going to happen is throughout the night, Jupiter is going to start setting and move toward the west. On the opposite side, if you look more toward the east, you'll see Mars already up. And what will happen is throughout the night, let me zoom out so you can see both of them at the same time. Mars will rise and move toward the south, and Jupiter will set and move toward the west throughout the night. But if you're looking around sunset, maybe a little bit after, before midnight, you'll see Jupiter more toward the west and Mars more toward the east. When you're looking at Jupiter, see if you can find Gemini and look for the very bright star in the middle. And if you're looking for Mars, well, it's hard to find Virgo, but if you find Leo and then move to the left, you'll find a red star. It is pretty red right now, actually. Yeah, I'll just talk about that. So you can see Mars over there, pretty red, and that's because we're lapping it on our way around the sun, and we're getting pretty close to it. Now, a little bit later, you have to get up a little bit later, but after 11 p.m., you can see Saturn, okay? And let's just move that a couple days, just get the moon out of there. So Saturn's over here in Libra, and that's going to rise in the southeast around a little bit after 11. And then again, just like the other planets and stars, it's going to rise out of the southeast and just keep going throughout the night. And as you can see, they're moving throughout the night. And as you can see, Jupiter will set, as I move backwards a little bit, sorry. Jupiter will set around 1 a.m. So you can't see that after 1 a.m. Mars, well, won't quite set. It'll actually still be up there in the morning by sunrise. Saturn will still be up by sunrise. And then, right around sunrise, if you look to the east, you will be able to see Venus. And Venus is going to be very, very, very bright. It's looking pretty good in a telescope right now, and it will eventually meet the moon for a little bit in part of the month. So if you're looking in the morning, you can see Venus in the east, and Saturn, there you go, Saturn over in the southwest, and maybe even Mars over in the west, depending on what time you go out. So those are planets you can see. If you're looking to find these at particular times, actually, I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Okay, let's talk about the events. Okay, so let's go to, let's see, the first event is April 6th, and let's look around sunset, plus an hour or two maybe. Now, on April 6th, you've got a close encounter between the moon and Jupiter. Now, the moon here, as you can see, is in its almost first quarter phase. The right half is lit up. And that's a close encounter between the moon and Jupiter because Jupiter will be about 5 degrees up and to the right of the moon. Then the next day, on the 7th, the moon is officially in its first quarter phase. The right half is lit up, and you can see the moon until about midnight, from sunset to about midnight, because midnight is when it sets. And then what's going to happen is every day, April 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, the moon starts tracking across the background stars, And it'll actually get close to Mars on the 13th and the 14th. On the 13th, if you look for the moon and Mars, you just look to the southeast after sunset. Pretty much after 10 o'clock is a good time to go out. And you'll find the almost full moon in the southeast. And Mars will be about 8 degrees to the left on the 13th. And then on the 14th, Mars will be about 8 degrees above the moon. And then, this is when we get a really cool event. Now, first of all, around the 14th, you'll see Mars on one side of the moon, Saturn on the other. But on the 15th, or the morning of the 15th, really, let me back that up. Oops. If you're looking in the morning on the 15th and you're just watching the moon, look at that. It changed color. What is that? Well, we have a total lunar eclipse. Okay? And now let me go in and take a look at the total lunar eclipse in a little more detail. So the point is, if you have the sun and you have the Earth, the moon is going around the back end. And the Earth's shadow is actually pretty small, and it's usually misaligned with the moon. But at this point, this moon is actually going to go into the Earth's shadow. And the Earth's shadow actually has two parts here. It's got the inner dark part, which is called the umbra, and the outer lighter part called the umbra. And what's going to happen is it's going to go into there. So let's put this into motion, into fast forward. Okay. What's going to happen is, and as you see, the time is going pretty quickly here. But right around Eastern Standard Time, 1:58. Now, this is when it goes into the penumbra. You're not going to be able to observe that. You can't really see the penumbral shadow. But the umbral shadow, the main part of the Earth's shadow, at right about 1:58 a.m., that's a slightly different time, and I don't know why, but it goes into the Earth's shadow, and eventually, right about there, according to Sky and Telescope, at about 3:07 a.m. At 3:07 a.m. is when the moon enters totality, which means it is completely in the shadow of the Earth. There is no direct sunlight hitting the moon. So you would think it would be gone, completely black, nothing that you could see. However, it turns a really deep, dark red color. Why? Well, okay, that red color has to be coming from somewhere. Well, and the light pretty much has to be coming from the sun. There's no other source. But here's the thing. The sun is still on the other side of the Earth, but the Earth has an atmosphere. And that atmosphere, that air, bends some of the light. Okay? And that light actually does bend and go toward the moon, but it's not white light because the Earth's atmosphere scatters almost all of the blue and other colors of light except for the reds and the oranges. They don't get scattered and absorbed by the Earth's atmosphere, so they pass through the Earth's atmosphere and actually go and hit the moon, and we're seeing that reflected light. Another way of putting it, when you look at the moon during a total lunar eclipse, you are looking at all of the sunrises and sunsets that are currently happening on the planet Earth. Marinate on that. Anyway, so totality starts at, what did I say, 3:07 a.m., and then it's going to keep going until about 4:25 in the morning. So it's about an hour, a little more than an hour of time, and then the moon will slowly exit the umbra, and then you'll start seeing the white parts of the moon yet again, and then you won't really be able to see the darkness of that side of the moon. And then this will all be gone by 5:33 in the morning. Now it's still in the penumbra, but we can't really observe that, so don't worry about it. And that's how the lunar eclipse is going to go. You're going to have to stay up late all night, but it's totally worth it. I encourage you to go out with a camera and get some shots of this. So let's close that down. So that's a total lunar eclipse. That's also the time of the full moon. And yeah, that's going to be really, 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 really cool, especially since you have Mars on one side and Saturn on the other. Let's go to the next day. That's when, and let's go to let's see, sunset on the 16th, plus a couple of hours. You'll see Saturn and the moon really close to each other on the night of the 16th. About 1 degree away, Saturn will be about 1 degree above the moon, which is going to be pretty cool to look at. Maybe you can get a picture through your telescope. And then, for the rest of the time, not too much is going on. What you'll notice is that every day the moon gets closer and closer to the sun, and on the 22nd, let's go one more day, the moon is in third quarter, which means you won't be able to see it until like 3 in the morning, and then it'll rise up, and you'll still be able to see it into the morning. So that's third quarter, and oh, by the way, there is a Lyrid meteor shower, but the meteor shower doesn't really peak until the morning, and that's when the moon is up, so it's going to be tough to see. That doesn't mean you won't see anything, but it's still worth a shot. Take a look out there, but I wouldn't make any travel plans around it. Then on the 25th and the 26th, you notice the moon is getting further away from Saturn and getting closer to the sun from our perspective, and that's when you see the moon and Venus pretty close together. On the 25th, on the 25th and 26th. On the 25th, you'll notice that the moon is up above Venus. On the 26th, I can't hit the right button. And then on the 26th, it's to the left of Venus over there. Now, technically, on the 27th, I think actually, I don't know what time, because it doesn't really matter. The moon is actually going to be in front of the sun, and it's going to be a solar eclipse, but you have to live in Australia or Indonesia or Antarctica to see that. That's because the moon's shadow, if you had the sun, the moon, and then the earth, the moon's shadow is being projected onto the earth, and that's very small compared to the earth. The shadow is very small compared to the earth. Whereas in a lunar eclipse, like what we're going to see, the Earth's shadow is huge on the moon. It covers the entire area, and all you have to do is be on Earth and be able to see the moon. So, anyway, the new moon is technically on the 29th. Actually, I should check these dates because I think the 29th is really when the eclipse happens. I might have messed that up on the document, but it doesn't matter for us in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, so sorry. Anyway, that is April as far as the events go. Let's do a real quick tour of the constellations. Let's zoom back out. Let's face south. Zoom back out. And let's go to about 9 o'clock when it's probably sufficiently dark. When it's 9 o'clock, you can look to the west and you can see these constellations for probably the last month of the year. You've got Orion over here, and you can follow the 3 belt stars to the right and find Taurus. A little bit further, and you can find the Pleiades. 3 belt stars again, move left, and you can see Canis Major, which has the brightest star in the sky known as Sirius right here. Then above Orion will be Gemini with Jupiter, and to the right of that will be Auriga, the charioteer. And if you look a little bit more toward the south, you'll see Cancer. Kind of tough to see. Dim stars. And you'll also see Leo over here as well. That's got the backwards question mark and the right triangle. That's an easy one to find. That's a spring constellation. If you wait up a little bit longer, you'll see some of the summer constellations coming up, like Aquila, Hercules, that's more spring, but that's Hercules, Lyra, and Cygnus coming up over there. Now let's go back to sunset and let's look to the north. And in the north, you'll be able to see, fast forward a little bit, you'll see the Big Dipper way up high. That's going to be pretty easy to find. Follow those 2 pointer stars that point to Polaris, which is the pole star. Notice as time goes by, that stays in the exact same spot. That's why it's the North Star, which has the Little Dipper. You've got Draco surrounding the Little Dipper. You've got Cepheus way down low. That will probably be hard to see because it's dim and there's lots of light pollution by the horizon, probably where you live. And then Same thing for Cassiopeia, brighter stars, but still it's down on the horizon, which probably has some light pollution. So anyway, that is the night sky for April of 2014. I wish you very good luck. I wish you clear, dark skies, and I hope you get to see the eclipse. Oh, I forgot to say the eclipse. It's actually one of 4, which I believe is known as a tetrad, of eclipses, of lunar eclipses. One will happen approximately every 6 months for the next 2 years, I guess you could say. So we should see 4. I don't know where all of them can be seen, but I do know this is a really, really good one for us to see. So get out there now. Yeah, I hope you have a cloudless night on the 14th and a cloudless morning on the 15th and clear, dark skies the rest of the month.